to Before You Tank, thriving in an industry that sucks. We say it sucks because 98% will fail. Our mission is to make sure you don't. Hey, you guys, welcome back to Before You Tank. We're here, we gathered here so that we can help you guys thrive in an industry that we say sucks. And again, we're going to define that again every time because I want you to know that we only say that because it's a 2% success rate, not because there's a lot of other bad things, because we're here to focus on the positive. And you guys, I make them wear different clothes every time. So if you comment and notice that we've changed our clothes, I'll give you a free download of my book that teaches you on how I got 4.1 million down.
I actually had to go shopping before the last episode just to make sure it was okay.
And I'm thinking, I make such a big deal out of it, so I just am curious, you guys. I've been so big on that. So if you guys notice, honest to God, I promise I'll give you my download on how I got 4.1 million down and a $31 million royalty. All right, so they're laughing at me, but because they didn't know I was going to do that. All right, you guys, today is a really cool topic. And I think we're really passionate that we overcome this for you guys. We get it every day. Our inventors are so excited and they're so passionate that they have this new product idea. It's absorbed their lives, right? Sometimes by the time we see them, it's been 5 years, 6 years, but they're so fearful. They're afraid to tell. They're afraid somebody's going to steal it. They're afraid. So it sometimes paralyzes them.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So today we really want to look at that in a really positive way. We want you guys to understand that we get it. We just last week or recently we just did one on NDAs and patents. So I think that's a cool way to start what we learned, right? We learned that if you have an NDA, it has to be specific to your product. Didn't know that. I have a general NDA. We fill it out though that it's for your product, but we also learned, right, that if you file a provisional, you got something in place, or you have a fully issued patent. Because a fully issued patent is to the public, so everybody's looking at it. Mm-hmm. So you can breathe. That's your protection. You bought your house, you're living in your house, you can now invite neighbors over, right? It's kind of what we now know, right? You guys, tell me what you notice the most when you're dealing with branding or wanting to get more marketing help. What is
that's a really fun area because I'll start with kind of a funny story. We laugh now, but in the moment you kind of think about it and you're like, wow, like what has kind of caused this level of fear? But I've had conversations multiple times with folks that have a great idea. They've actually got a product, it's developed. Nice. They've got, maybe it's the spec sheet and they want to market it, right? So they're like, hey, how do I grow and sell this thing? But they want an NDA in place before they tell me the product features
that they're going to sell to everyone in the public.
The things that they want me to, promote to the rest of the world.
Right.
And so that's always a fun conversation to just kind of navigate of like, okay, so are we gonna publish this out to hundreds of thousands of people, or are we not going to?
Right, and they don't even want to tell you.
Exactly.
Do you think it's because they're afraid that you're talented enough in the industry that you could steal it? Do you think that's the mindset?
I think it's even less of a specific fear than that when I run into it. I think it's this general overarching fear of, if I talk about it, someone somewhere is going to get wind of it and steal it, right? Because we've heard the horror stories from big corporations taking this and that. But I think what we can best do to help, overcome some of that is really start clarifying the things that do and don't need specific protection and, being careful with, right? If you've got a trade secret and your product works this particular way because you've got this step in the manufacturing process that makes the magic happen,
right?
You probably don't want to tell everybody about that step, right? But
you have to sell the product.
Exactly. At the end of the day, that the product does this amazing thing. Well, you're going to tell the world about it. So I think those are
right. So you're saying, I'm going to tell you that my fishing pole, I like that I have a mechanism on a fishing pole that the second it hits water, fish come. We want to tell that every day because we want you to buy it. You're just not going to tell what the mechanism does and how you got that to do it. So that's the real difference, right? Okay, that's the trade secret thing. What makes me laugh is like, especially for you who's got a finished product. It's one thing when you have a licensing client, right? And they have this really cool idea and they've got a provisional, and it's still hard because I have to show I got to get somebody to invest. You guys, $250 to $1 million to take your product to market.
Yeah.
But they're like, but you can't tell them what it is. Well, oh my God, how do you sell something you can't tell? But yours is a finished product. It's like it's sitting in somebody's garage, and you need them to buy it.
And I bring that up as an extreme example, but I think with these extremes, it can sometimes help you start reframing how you think about it, right? And let's start looking at what information is protected, what information doesn't need to be, what information is just sales material, right?
Exactly.
At that first stage marketing kind of research and getting a licensing deal, it's definitely a different challenge, right?
Well, and it's funny because, and Pawan, you've probably seen this a lot.
A lot.
When an inventor comes to me and I'm trying to find a way to get a licensing deal or to get a buyer to take the product, that person is so hard to even get them interested enough to know that you stand out, much less have them spend $250,000 to $1 million to steal it, right? So I think when you can put that into perspective, when you think about how hard it is to even get a really great product to market, right? And we've all known great products that took years. I think on average it's 6 to 8 years to get a product to market that does well. So think about it, with all the money and all the backing behind it, and you're genuinely willing to share all the information, it's almost impossible that somebody is going to steal.
It's impossible, especially it's very tough for when you're doing the product development. And then you tell your product developer, okay, if you want to work with any suppliers or any other partnering with someone, they need to sign NDAs. They don't want to share the information. Because that information is already public, most of them. Even if it's patent is released, now I'm going to work with something because there's some different specific skill sets I need, and I just can't get with them easily because not everyone want to get to sign NDA because they get scared.
Right.
Okay, what I'm getting into, and I think that's prevent me creating the product they really wanted.
It's such an important aspect, right? And we kind of hit on this quote a lot, but if you break it down for a second, that whole, ideas are cheap and execution is everything. If you think about that, a lot of people actually have the same idea, right? That's why there's multiple variations.
Oh, I agree.
Patents,
I have a belief
right?
on that. Yep.
Oh, yeah. So I want to hear about that. But if you think about what really makes a business successful, even the ones that appear to be overnight successes, when you go and you read all their stories, right? They worked enslaved for years to get it there. And so
That's right. It was
I've run
more
into
of that
so
execution.
many people that are afraid to even tell you about their idea,
Right.
just the idea. And yet it's that execution piece. And so when we worked with a lot of folks that were doing startups, one of the things we always tried to coach them into is figure out a way to explain your idea really effectively and tell everyone about it. You're going to get tons of feedback. You don't have to give away your secret sauce, but get your idea out there. Because if you don't, and you always keep it to yourself, you're never going to get started. You're never going to walk down that hard road of doing the full execution. It's like step one.
Well, and I have a really good analogy. And I don't want to say I'm a fear-based person by any means, but being a single woman, I have certain fears. And one I'm thinking of is in my home, right? So I live in my home, and it's possible somebody could break into my home. I mean, let's face it. It's possible it could happen. Does it happen to everybody? No. Does it happen very often? No. But could it happen? Yes. And I've been to Washington. I've fought for patent rights. I've tried to protect that. And I've been there and know people that have had their products stolen. So I'm not going to say, I think we can all really respectfully say that happens.
Yep.
But I have found that, and maybe this brings me peace of mind, but I have found that when I'm in my home, I don't have big assets. So I'm like, if you're going to break in and you'll be like, there's nothing here for me to take. So they're not going to take. So I say that to relate that to the products that usually get stolen have done a great job of getting to market, done all the hard work, like you said, done all the execution, and it's wonderful. And somehow they managed to sneak in. And they used to say competition is great, right? If somebody steals your ideal, it's a good thing. So if you have done, hopefully, the best that we can hope for is that you've done that right, you've branded it right, you've become right, and look at it. I mean, isn't there, every Kleenex company has a competitor, right? Every toilet paper has a competitor. There's plenty of market for all of us, hopefully. Now, like I said, we have to stay looking at this so that you can continue to move your world, because your neighbor may have gotten robbed, but that doesn't mean you're going to, right? Yeah. So we have to keep doing that.
Yeah, that's so important too, right? Because we're definitely not saying, because we're a big fan of getting the right protections, right? We had the whole discussion about provisional patents and getting the proper NDA. We're definitely not saying, oh, just, share all this
Yeah,
stuff.
don't just give it away.
But think
also,
about the details of that, right? If you, I'm just going to make this up because it's totally crazy scenario, right? But if you just found the perfect ingredient to add to toothpaste and you want to go pitch that to Colgate, right? You're not going to tell them exactly, oh, this is how you do it, right? Without having that protection in place.
Exactly.
But in order to get them interested, you
gotta
have
do
to
that.
tell them, I have something that you don't have.
You have to.
And what it does.
You have
Exactly.
to.
And why
I
it's so
have
beneficial.
An incredible product right now, and I've had it for a while, and I've had every one of the big major companies in that category excited. And I have an inventor who has the technology and protection, but I can't get enough out of it to close a deal. And I keep trying to say, can you just, and they're so scared. And I'm like, they're not going to license this because, and we know what they have is awesome because you get 5 big players to go, yeah, we want to see it.
Yeah.
I can't convince, I've brought in product development companies to try to interpret. I've tried everything I can to make enough out of my fearful inventor comfortable enough to give me enough so we can actually, because they're buying the secret sauce, guys. I gotta have the secret sauce at this point.
Yeah.
And so it's really costing him a deal.
I think you're touching on something really important there because you said, fearful inventor, and I've even connected to inventors that work with a very fear-based patent attorney that has caused them.
We know that.
You probably have incredible stories about this.
We know that.
But I think I will say it goes both ways because those attorneys in that business, right? So they have seen those horror stories. So they're trying to protect their client.
They mean
I
well.
can say that.
They
but
mean well. But
it
they're
goes
paralyzed.
both ways. So once, I think what missing is, and I'll get back on that, but not having enough information that for inventor does not know enough information about what patent cover, what provisional patent cover, what is these things covers. If they don't have information, they don't know what they can present, what they cannot present. And I think that unknown causes them the fear that they just don't want to disclose things, and the whole chain reaction started after that.
Yeah, and you mentioned that about kind of their experience and the caution is warranted, right? Which I think is really important because when you're working with a patent attorney or whoever, it's really good to know what is their experience, right? Have they only worked for big corporate where everything is about protection and defense? Did they work with the USPTO? Did they work for the USPTO at some point? Have they worked with inventors who brought something to market or successfully licensed? Because the perspective is going to be very different depending on who you're talking to.
You guys, I mean, I have a basic contract for a licensing arrangement, and I have used it 31 years. Written by my attorney. I've had modifications where somebody will ask me, can we change this verbiage a tiny bit? Over 31 years, a lot of clients I've had use this contract, including 3 attorneys. I have had recently a client that came with an attorney who literally scratched my whole contract, every single line, to a point where my hands are so tied, I'm like, I don't even know how to successfully help you. And more importantly, it's just such an unhealthy environment because I'm stuck going, oh my God, I could sell this product in 22 seconds. I work with the company that's the perfect fit. I'm already doing a deal with them. I've already prepped them that I'm coming with this incredible product. And I can't get to a deal with this attorney. And this poor inventor, I has to trust him, right? I mean, he has to. He hired him. He's supposed to. And I get that totally. But it has made it impossible for me to help. And so I'm not saying I'm all knowing and can all be the only one, but I got to think that the next guy in line is going to come up against the same concerns that I had. And I feel like I know this for a fact. I have a belief 3 people get this product ideal because one's going to follow through and 2 won't. But I also, and I see it all the time in 3s, but I also know this. The longer you wait to take your product to market, the more time you're giving to the next guy to beat you there. And so this last negotiation problem I had was, 6 months ago. I could have been done. At least we would have known what we have, what we're doing. We could have made a deal happen. Instead, this guy is probably still trying to figure out how to get someone to help him work because nobody can get past this contract. And I know without a doubt, somebody is ticking along right behind you with either something better or something really close. And
It's
it makes me cry.
true, right? Because
It breaks my
if
heart.
all the best products, they're solving a problem. Well, if they're solving it for enough people, then other people see that problem. So other people are
They're
definitely
working
going to
on
have.
it. And there's
they're working on
already,
it.
to be honest, not to ever tell you anything about the product, but I've already in my research seen a couple things that are going to sneak up behind and take over. And it makes me cry because to me, this is such an incredible product and this person has worked so hard. But they come from a background where we're nervous. So I want to touch on this, not necessarily the fear piece. I don't know if I'd call it a fear piece, but I have this philosophy, you guys, that I've kind of identified over the years. Have you ever noticed how an inventor, and you tell me if your inventors do this, but by the time they come to me, they've been at it for 5 or 6 or 7 years. And they've done some incredible things. They've re-prototyped 6 times. They've, remodified their patents 10 times. They've been to every Inventors Club show. They've done all these really cool things. They light up every time they tell you the story. They're so ecstatic. And I'll go, well, have you showed it to anybody? Like, have you either thought about getting a buyer feedback or have you really ever tried to sell it or show it? And they're like, well, no, not yet. And they get stuck in this whole inventor stage. And I heard something recently that said there's something in our brain that creates this high on this hope. And I really believe that. I think that right now you are so excited and you have something that you can relate to that you've done significantly better. But if you find the answer, it's like rejection, right? Where now we've lost the hope and the belief. If you just keep building, you got something. You've told yourself so many times, you told your friends so many times, you've got something. But if I actually took it out and started getting you the feedback, there's a chance that that elation ends. And there's a physical, I just heard that there's a physical thing that keeps people stuck in hope and not action. Does that make sense to you guys?
It totally makes sense. And I think we touched this thing on one of the topic is listen to your buyer, right? This inventor gets so stuck in this thing they don't want to listen to anyone. They think my product is based, it's great, it's gonna solve this, but who knows about that product? Just this person.
But you said it. You just said something really psychologically makes sense, is that they don't listen to the buyer because they think it's a negative, it's a rejection.
The fear.
And right, so they took it as a rejection and they come back and they argue, no, what I'm doing is right because they've held on to it for so long. And according to this article written by a scientist, there's a need for that, right? We need hope. We need a thing. Because think about it, because I don't know, you guys, my first deal was big deal that I was on a commercial product was my pantyhose. And we stopped in a Circle K, no, it was a 7-Eleven. We stopped in a 7-Eleven. I was on vacation. My family's in the car. I run in, it's on the shelf. I grab it, I run out the front door, no payment, screaming, oh my God, because you guys, the first time you see your product on the shelf, it's freaking amazing. But after that, you're sort of like, everyone after that sort of came like, all right, I did it, but it wasn't the same.
The first one.
Right, it wasn't the same as the first one. So if you've shared your product with all your friends and people have said negative things, you have to get up every day and tell yourself they're wrong. Right? So you have been doing that. So imagine you're feeding yourself all the positive hope for 5 years, but it's painful just to have your mother say you're crazy. But now you're gonna have a buyer say you're not. So maybe you hit on that. Maybe they're not really disagreeing because they're sure they're so wrong. Maybe it's just a reflex that they have to defend their position because they've done it for so long. That's so fascinating because it's hard for you to make a shift if you have that mindset.
Yeah, mindset's super important, right? And being able to really think about, okay, what is the feedback that I'm receiving and really process it, because if you're just in that mode of like, oh, everybody's been telling me don't do this for a while, and you filter everything through that lens, but you get really valuable feedback from a buyer or something else, you're gonna miss the value, right? And so
oh my God, I'm gonna teach everybody something now. I'm so excited. I learned this through Anthony Robbins, which you and I love him. And 100 years ago, okay, my age shows up. But a long, long time ago, he said something that changed my life. And I think if everybody could grasp this, it would change the way they invent. He said, it's the definition of failure that paralyzes people.
Yeah.
You've heard that, right? So think about that. So for me, the definition of failure, the only way in the world that I could ever fail is if I don't try, which motivates me to try, because even when I'm scared, even when I pick up phones sometimes with, highfalutin executives, sometimes I have to know my spiel right, and sometimes I take a hesitation. But then I go, oh, if I don't do this, it gnaws at me that I didn't make the effort. That's why I think I'm so great for my clients, is because I work so hard, because that's my motivation, is to at least do it. So what I've said to myself, my definition is, if I don't try, I fail. But what I'm looking for is just help. I just want help. So I'm not caring if you tell me no. I'm not caring if you tell me yes. I'm just looking for you to guide me in an industry where my product is, because I've had products in every industry, but when I started, I didn't know anything about pantyhose industry. So I always go at help. So I want to find somebody who's deep in the industry, who can give me the help, that can look at my product and say, oh my gosh, this would go great over here, this would go over there. And so to me, that answer for my help is a home run. Even if that help says, lady, you're crazy, this thing's been tried before and it didn't work. But I write that down and I go, okay, but that doesn't mean my team's product can't make it work. The next guy says, look, it could sell if you make this change. I come back to my inventor and I say, wow, this is the feedback I'm getting. But I just take that in, and then we digest and reevaluate, and so that we're creating success. So there's never failure. So you're never rejected. It's never personal. We've done cold calling, so we know that you have to just get over that. So you're on a hunt. In my opinion, we're an Easter egg hunt. We're looking for the jewels that will turn it into the deal. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it totally makes sense. And I think that you touched one point really nicely, because we as a human, we always we afraid of taking negative feedback. We are afraid of learning from mistakes. What I learned from myself, right? Every time I'm working in the industry for 20 years, every time I just...
Did you hear the train? Sorry, hold on one second. How can we be in a soundproof booth and have a train come through? It's just you're quiet, so I didn't want you to
this building is...
That's hysterical. I love it. I love that. You guys were in an accelerator type setting.
Oh, man.
And it is so fun.
The studio is so fun. You just never know what you're going to get. Like the one time we were filming and there was like a party in the outside. We're like, I think we got to pause and go join that, because that looks like fun. And now we got the train.
Now we have a train. Go ahead, because your point was really good.
Where was I? I lost in the train.
You were just saying
No,
that.
so I'm saying is all my career, right? I also teach whoever I'm trying to teach is you're gonna make mistakes. Yes. You're gonna get negative feedback. Yes. What makes you different than other is learn from that mistakes. Keep that as a feedback as a positive. Don't think that's a negative feedback. That's a positive for you, because it's gonna teach you something that makes your next move better.
Exactly.
Think,
so even if you have to give up on that specific product because it doesn't have traction, it just means that you learned the steps, right? Now you know how to do it right.
That's the key of being an inventor, that you need to learn, you need to invent, you need to think outside the box. And I think that's the best way to do is learn from your mistake, learn from others' mistakes, so you know what not to do.
Right.
And then find that unique solution.
Okay, so I'm going to go a little deep, but I think I'm onto something. I think as humans, we are the hardest on ourselves. Like me, I don't even want to see my video. I don't want to, because I am really hard on myself.
Yeah, always hear it.
So because we're so hard on ourselves, on top of it, it makes failure even worse, right? So if we just could let ourselves off the hook and just think of this process in such a fun way, that I have something really cool, I just want to see. I want to see if it goes further. I just want to see. And we taught some great cheap, if no cost ways to continue to test and test. So if you look at your incredible idea as that in your heart, it's the home run, because you have to know that. You have to get up every day knowing that you're going to turn this into something. But if you can let go and enjoy the fun of the ride, like you said, that ride could not end this product, but it may be the next product. And now I'm going to give you guys something really fun. So I'll put it with Inventors Club for women, because she's our great sponsor. She's really good at getting stuff. But if you are a person that just loves to create, but you don't always have a solution to solve, I get companies that send me things looking for things. Toy industry, IBM does the same thing, you guys. Qualcomm will do the same thing. They'll do an outreach for inventors and they'll put out what they're looking for, and then you can solve their problem. So if you're really creative and cool, you can solve their problem and they will pay you. It's amazing.
Yeah, we actually I used to run several of those for the big company. It was oh man, we could go into this for probably a whole episode. I know. And so it's really interesting because you can do that. Even those companies, they do it internally and externally, which is really awesome. There's even some platforms out there. And so sometimes you're creative, you're great at solving problems, but you don't have those like out of the blue ideas that you just want to build a business
right,
out of.
You don't know how to solve something.
Yeah, look for these pitch events, look for these, opportunities to throw in, your talent and your expertise, because sometimes that problem that you're like, I've got a brilliant solution for this.
I love that.
It's so fun to see. And the most favorite part about it for me was that you don't have to be an expert in that particular field to have an incredible idea, right? Because you're so removed from it, better. You have a different perspective. So don't shortchange yourself.
Well, and the cool part, to bring it home to what we were talking about, your fear base, when a company offers that opportunity outside to the public, they're going to do all the protection for you. You don't have to worry about all that. They are just asking the population to help them solve a problem. They give you the definition and you go do magic. Then you can have fun at what you love doing. And I met a gentleman before COVID. We were at a CES show, and I think he did a solution for, I think it was IBM or Qualcomm, one or the other. But I mean, they gave him millions, and he now has his own company, and he's building on this incredible product. As a funny joke, I'm in there going, look, we want to do this really cute toy ideal. And they made like this little ball that is like now your entire tower for your cell phone. So in a national disaster, you can pull this out and save lives. And I'm like, well, we were looking for a fun toy. I mean, it wasn't just a toy, but it's impressive. So I will work with Katie, who we're going to bring back on for another episode. I'll work with Katie. And so if you guys think you're really cool at inventing and you really love it and you realize that maybe some of it is too stressful for you, or you've gone at yours and it didn't become the success you thought, there's another outlet. Don't you think that'd be really fun? Give us a tip for the day.
So mine would be, don't let fear drive all your decisions. And so if you, step back from that and think about it for a minute, obviously it's good to have caution, but don't let it run everything. Right. Connect with, even just the example you said, right? Inventors Club for Women. There's probably so many resources, people there that can tell their stories and kind of share how they navigated these. Connect, make, well-informed decisions, learn these key things, get those downloads that you can now understand what you need to protect, what you don't. But hopefully out of all this, we've given everybody a much more positive light to look at these common fears, because I think we've all felt them with every idea we've thought of.
Of course.
Right? So,
yeah. I still do this sometimes, even when I make calls for someone
absolutely.
else.
Yeah.
So I get it. What do you think? Tip of the day.
You took most of my tips, but anyways.
I think that was like 4 packed into one. Sorry.
4 packed into one, so yeah, you got all of them. But I think you got the right point, is like fear, like trust yourself. Don't take fear as a negative. Use that as your strong suit. Learn from your mistakes. I think that's my tip, is like learn from it. Yeah, you're going to make mistake, but learn from it and move ahead.
Love it. My tip is going to be, I want you to change the definition of this process. This industry sucks. I'm sorry. I've been in it 31 years and I'm addicted, so I can't get out. But for me, the reason that I have survived, even when I've gone many times where I've had to let a client down and not be able to do a deal, but we've learned on the way. So when my client and I know that we've exhausted all of our revenues, we can all go to bed going, we gave it our best shot. And so I would like you to change the definition of what you're out to do. Get out of your head, I've got the biggest, newest, hottest deal, and I'm gonna make $200 million, I'm gonna retire my family. You're gonna go at it as, I've got the coolest product and I'm going to Easter egg hunt it. You can use your version of it, but for me, you're going to Easter egg hunt every piece until you get to the success, and use that objectively, because then for me, it's up to my odds every single time for my success. So change the definition in your head so that it becomes fun, because if not, you have to play Rocky theme song every minute of your life to keep coping, right? You guys, this industry's tough. All right, you guys, thanks again. We really do appreciate you coming out. Keep these, we're getting emails, we're getting some really good questions, we're getting really excited. If you have guts for this call, I guess this is a perfect request. If you have a product that you're working on and you feel really safe, tell us. If you would like our evaluation, we would love to use you as an example evaluation. If you're fully protected with a provisional or something like that, then let us know that we can speak. But we can also speak on it for you if you just tell us what we can't say. Like, you don't have to give us the secret sauce. So if you want us to evaluate, guys, don't you think that'd be a blast?
That would be great.
Yeah,
I mean, especially because imagine
we
the
might
feedback,
have contacts
right?
we can share. We might have resources for manufacturing we can share. I might be like, oh my God, I have a buyer just asking me about this. So give it to us. We'd love it. We'd take that challenge. All right, you guys, thanks for tuning in, and may you succeed before you tank. Am I saying that right? It's hard to play on that. Sorry. All right, have a great day. Thanks again.